I think that, again, like what you said, it was a hard decision for us, but that was the safest and best decision, not just for Bruce, but also for our two young girls.
In 2022, the family of Bruce Willis revealed that the Hollywood icon had been diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia. His specific condition, primary progressive aphasia, slowly strips away a person's ability to speak, read, and understand language. Willis was 67 at the time of the diagnosis, more than 3 years later. The disease has progressed to the point where he requires near constant care. In August 2025, his wife, Emma Hemming Willis, shared a deeply personal update that immediately ignited public debate. In a television special with journalist Diane Sawyer, Emma revealed that Bruce no longer lives in the family's main home. Instead, he now stays in a nearby one-story house where professional caregivers look after him 24 hours a day. Within hours of the broadcast, social media erupted. Critics accused Emma of abandoning her husband. Supporters defended her decision. And Emma later admitted something striking. She knew the backlash was coming. The illness and the caregiving journey of the Willis family. The first signs that something was wrong appeared gradually in the daily life of Bruce Willis, when family members noticed subtle changes in the way he spoke, including the unexpected return of a stutter that had not been present for many years. At first, the symptoms seemed minor, but over time, the difficulty with speech became more frequent, and conversations that once came naturally to him began to require more effort and concentration. Doctors eventually identified the cause as frontotemporal dementia, a rare degenerative brain condition that damages areas responsible for behavior, communication, and decision-making. The specific form affecting Willis was later confirmed to be primary progressive aphasia, a disorder that slowly erodes a person's ability to use and understand language. People with this condition gradually lose the ability to speak clearly, read written words, write sentences, and even follow conversations. While the average onset for this disease is around age 56, Bruce Willis was 67 when doctors delivered the official diagnosis. For the family, the moment of diagnosis did not bring clarity or direction. In later interviews, Emma Hemming Willis explained that after leaving the medical appointment, they realized they had very little practical guidance about what would happen next. The doctors confirmed the illness, but there was no detailed roadmap explaining how quickly symptoms might progress, how to prepare for the future, or what kind of daily support the patient would eventually need. The family was suddenly facing a serious neurological disease without clear instructions for navigating the years ahead. During the following 3 years, Emma gradually stepped into the role of primary organizer and caregiver within the household while continuing to raise the couple's 2 daughters. Their eldest daughter, Mabel, is now 13 years old, and Evelyn, the younger child, is 11. Emma's daily routine began to revolve around balancing medical appointments, communication with doctors, and the emotional needs of 2 children who were witnessing the gradual changes in their father. At the same time, she began searching for specialists who had real experience treating patients with frontotemporal dementia. She consulted neurologists, spoke with dementia experts, and studied available research on progressive language disorders. Over time, she worked to assemble a medical support system around Bruce that included professional caregivers and healthcare providers who understood the progression of the illness and could respond to its evolving challenges. As this process unfolded, Emma became increasingly aware that millions of families were facing similar situations, but with far fewer resources or public attention. In the United States alone, an estimated 11 million people provide unpaid care for relatives living with dementia or other serious neurological conditions, and many of them struggle to find clear guidance after a diagnosis. This realization eventually inspired Emma to transform her personal experience into a practical resource for others by writing a book titled The Unexpected Journey. which is scheduled for release on September 9th, 2025. Rather than focusing only on her family's story, the book is intended to serve as a guide that offers emotional support and practical insight for caregivers who suddenly find themselves responsible for a loved one with a progressive brain disease. Through the project, Emma hopes to provide the kind of direction she wished had existed when her own family first received Bruce Willis's diagnosis. The decision for Bruce to live separately. Process, reasons, and practical benefits. The decision that Emma Hemming Willis eventually made about the living arrangements of Bruce Willis did not happen suddenly. It emerged slowly over time as the realities of caring for someone with frontotemporal dementia and primary progressive aphasia became clearer with each passing year. One moment in particular forced Emma to confront a difficult truth about long-term caregiving. During a conversation with medical professionals involved in Bruce's treatment, she was presented with a statistic that many families rarely hear until they are already overwhelmed. In a significant number of cases involving progressive neurological disease, caregivers experience severe physical and emotional strain, and some even die before the patient they are caring for. For Emma, that information changed the way she viewed her role. Until that point, she had been trying to manage nearly every responsibility herself. She was coordinating medical appointments, supervising daily care, raising 2 children, and continuing to support Bruce emotionally through the progression of his illness. Hearing that caregivers often collapse under the weight of that responsibility forced her to consider a possibility she had resisted for a long time. She could not do everything alone. The realization led to what she later described as one of the most difficult decisions of her life. Instead of keeping Bruce inside the family's main residence full-time, Emma chose to move him into a nearby 1-story home designed specifically to support his medical and safety needs. The house is located close to the family's primary residence, allowing Emma and the children to visit frequently while ensuring that Bruce remains in a controlled and stable environment. The design of the home was not accidental. 1-story houses are often recommended for patients with progressive neurological diseases because they remove hazards that become dangerous as mobility and awareness decline. The absence of stairs reduces the risk of falls, while simplified layouts allow caregivers to monitor patients more effectively. The quiet environment also minimizes overstimulation, which can sometimes trigger confusion or agitation in dementia patients. In practical terms, the new arrangement allowed Bruce to receive professional care 24 hours a day, instead of relying primarily on family members. A trained caregiving team could respond immediately to changes in his condition, assist with daily routines, and ensure that his medical needs were addressed consistently. Emma explained that this structure ensures that Bruce's needs are met fully at all times, something that would be extremely difficult for one person to guarantee inside a busy family home. Another important factor behind the decision involved the couple's daughters, Mabel and Evelyn. As Bruce's illness progressed, the symptoms of frontotemporal dementia began to affect daily life in unpredictable ways. Episodes of confusion, communication breakdowns, or behavioral changes can occur without warning in patients with the condition. Emma believed it was important that the children continue to grow up in an environment that felt stable and emotionally safe. By placing Bruce in a nearby care residence rather than the center of the household, she hoped to shield the girls from witnessing the most difficult daily aspects of the disease. She also explained that she believed Bruce himself would have wanted this outcome. According to Emma, protecting the emotional well-being of their daughters would have been one of Bruce's top priorities if he were able to fully evaluate the situation today. Despite the physical separation between the 2 homes, Emma has emphasized that the decision did not end the relationship between husband and wife. She continues to visit Bruce regularly, spending time sitting with him, holding his hands, embracing him, and sharing quiet moments together. The structure of their relationship has changed, but she describes those moments as deeply meaningful. rather than seeing the new arrangement as a loss. Emma has spoken about it as a different stage in their life together. The routines may look different than they once did, but she still views each visit as an opportunity to share time with the man she married. From a psychological perspective, the decision reflects a form of love that is rarely discussed openly in conversations about illness. Caring for someone with a progressive brain disease eventually requires accepting realities that cannot be reversed. The illness will continue to advance, and the needs of the patient will grow more complex over time. Emma's choice represents an attempt to protect the quality of life for everyone involved. Bruce receives constant professional care. Their daughters are able to grow up in a stable home environment, and Emma herself maintains the emotional and physical strength needed to remain present for both. In that sense, the decision is not about distance, it is about sustainability. It reflects a difficult but compassionate understanding that sometimes the most responsible way to care for someone you love is to build a system that can support them fully, rather than trying to carry the entire burden alone. The Diane Sawyer interview and the wave of public controversy. On August 26, 2025, Emma Hemming Willis appeared in a televised special with veteran journalist Diane Sawyer. The program, which focused on the family's experience with frontotemporal dementia and primary progressive aphasia, marked the first time Emma publicly discussed the decision about the living arrangements of Bruce Willis. During the interview, Emma explained that Bruce was no longer living inside the family's primary home and was instead staying in a nearby one-story residence where professional caregivers could supervise him around the clock. She described the decision as part of a larger plan to ensure Bruce received consistent medical attention while also protecting the emotional stability of their household. Within hours of the broadcast, the interview began spreading rapidly across social media platforms. Clips from the conversation circulated on Instagram, X, TikTok, and Reddit, and the reaction was immediate and intense. Many viewers expressed sympathy for the family and acknowledged the complexity of caring for someone with a progressive neurological disease. However, another segment of the online audience reacted with strong criticism. Some users accused Emma of abandoning her husband during the most difficult period of his life. Others framed the decision as an example of what they described as Hollywood selfishness, suggesting that a spouse should never allow a partner with dementia to live separately. Several comments argued that caregiving is a sacred marital responsibility and that couples should remain physically together until the end of life, regardless of circumstances. A number of critics also raised concerns about the couple's daughters, speculating that the children might feel emotionally disconnected from their father if he lived outside the main family home. These arguments spread widely in comment sections and discussion threads, turning the interview into a larger debate about marriage, caregiving, and responsibility. Despite the intensity of the backlash, Emma later revealed that she had anticipated this reaction before the interview even aired. In a follow-up conversation after the broadcast, she acknowledged the controversy with a brief but revealing comment. "Yeah, I knew it would." Emma explained that she had decided to speak openly about the situation precisely because she understood that the public might judge her decision without knowing the full reality of living with dementia. As the debate expanded online, two distinct perspectives began to emerge. On one side were critics who believed the decision represented a failure of family duty. Many of these responses came from people who had never personally experienced the day-to-day demands of caring for a patient with frontotemporal dementia. Their comments often reflected traditional expectations about marriage, where spouses are expected to remain physically present regardless of the circumstances. On the other side were thousands of caregivers and medical advocates who strongly defended Emma's choice. Many individuals who had spent years caring for relatives with dementia recognized the practical reasons behind her decision and began sharing their own experiences online. Some described situations where professional care became necessary after a loved one's condition progressed beyond what a single family member could manage safely. Others explained that structured care environments can actually improve a patient's quality of life by providing constant supervision and specialized medical support. These personal stories gradually shifted part of the public conversation, showing that Emma's situation was not unusual among families facing progressive neurological disease. 3 days after the interview aired, Emma responded directly to the controversy through a video posted on her Instagram account on August 29, 2025. In the message, she addressed the criticism openly and explained that she was not seeking approval from people who had never experienced dementia within their own families. She stated clearly that caregiving decisions must be made based on the specific needs of each patient and each household. According to Emma, dementia does not follow a single predictable path, and the solutions that work for one family may not work for another. During the video, she summarized this reality with a phrase often repeated by dementia specialists: "If you have seen one case of dementia, you have seen one case. Every situation is different." Her response did not end the debate, but it reframed the conversation. Instead of focusing only on whether Bruce Willis lived in the same house as his family, the discussion began shifting toward a broader issue: how society judges caregivers who are forced to make complex decisions under emotional and medical pressure. For Emma, the interview was never intended to create controversy. Her goal was to speak honestly about a situation that many families face, but rarely discuss publicly. The reaction that followed demonstrated how little the public often understands about the realities of long-term dementia care, the deeper reasons behind the controversy, and the human lessons. The intense reaction that followed the interview with Diane Sawyer revealed more than disagreement about one family's decision. It exposed several deeper misunderstandings about illness, caregiving, and public expectations. One of the main reasons for the backlash was the general lack of public understanding about frontotemporal dementia. Unlike more widely discussed conditions such as Alzheimer's disease, FTD remains relatively rare and poorly understood by the public. The illness often progresses quickly and affects areas of the brain responsible for language, behavior, and personality. In the case of Bruce Willis, the diagnosis of primary progressive aphasia meant that communication itself would gradually become more difficult over time. For families living with the condition, daily life can involve unpredictable behavioral changes, confusion, and communication barriers that grow more severe as the disease progresses. However, many members of the public are unfamiliar with these realities. When they hear that a spouse with dementia is living in a separate residence, they often interpret the situation through a simple moral lens rather than a medical one. Another powerful force behind the criticism comes from long-standing cultural expectations about marriage and family. In many societies, there is a deeply rooted belief that spouses must remain physically together until the end of life. Regardless of illness or circumstance, the image of a devoted partner staying beside a sick spouse day and night has become a powerful cultural symbol of loyalty and love. Because of this expectation, any deviation from that image can easily be interpreted as abandonment, even when the decision is based on medical or safety considerations. The idea that a couple might live in separate spaces while still maintaining a meaningful relationship challenges the traditional narrative of what caregiving is supposed to look like. Public scrutiny also intensifies when the people involved are globally recognized figures. As a major Hollywood actor for decades, Bruce Willis has long existed in the public eye, and the same attention naturally extends to his family. When private decisions become public stories, every detail can be examined, criticized, and debated by millions of strangers who have only partial information. Social media further amplifies this dynamic through what many observers describe as the keyboard warrior phenomenon. Individuals can deliver harsh judgments instantly and anonymously, often without considering the full complexity of the situation. The emotional distance created by online platforms allows people to treat deeply personal family decisions as topics for public debate. Yet the reality of caregiving looks very different from these simplified online arguments. Across the United States, an estimated 11 million people provide care for relatives living with dementia. Many of these caregivers balance medical responsibilities with jobs, parenting, and financial pressure. Studies consistently show that long-term caregiving can lead to extreme emotional exhaustion, chronic stress, depression, and serious health problems. In some cases, caregivers experience medical decline so severe that they die before the person they are caring for. These realities form the background of the message that Emma Heming Willis has been trying to communicate publicly. During a later interview on Good Morning America, she addressed the broader issue directly by emphasizing that caregivers should not feel ashamed about asking for help. Her message was simple but powerful. Asking for support is not a failure. Caring for someone with a progressive brain disease should never be a mission carried by one person alone. Instead, she encouraged families to gather support systems, reach out to relatives and friends, and involve professionals when necessary. Emma also stressed an idea that is often ignored in discussions about caregiving. The caregiver's well-being matters as much as the patient's. A caregiver who becomes physically or emotionally exhausted cannot continue to provide effective support. Maintaining personal health, emotional balance, and outside help is essential for sustaining long-term care. This perspective places the Willis family's decision in a much broader context. Thousands of families across the country face similar choices every year when dementia progresses to a stage that requires constant supervision. Many of these families quietly arrange professional care or specialized living environments for their loved ones, but their stories rarely receive public attention. Unlike these anonymous families, the experience of Emma Heming Willis and Bruce Willis unfolded in front of a global audience. The intense reaction to their decision revealed how uncomfortable society can be when confronted with the real, messy complexities of long-term illness. For Emma, one of the main goals behind writing The Unexpected Journey was to change that conversation. The book aims to give caregivers something many of them lack: permission. Permission to ask for help without guilt. Permission to set boundaries that protect their own health. And permission to choose the solutions that work best for their families, even when those decisions do not match public expectations. In that sense, the controversy surrounding the Willis family has unintentionally opened a much larger discussion about what caregiving really looks like behind closed doors. It has also highlighted a truth that many caregivers already know from experience. Love is not measured by appearances, but by the difficult choices people make in order to protect the ones they care about.